Imagine looking up into the vast night sky, believing that what you see is timeless, predictable, and safe, only to learn that something utterly alien has crossed into our solar system. For centuries, comets have come and gone, their icy tails reminding us of cosmic wanderers passing by. But what if one of these so-called comets wasn't a comet at all? What if the patterns we thought were random actually whispered of intention, of design, of something not born of natural chaos, but of technology? That is the unsettling story of 3I Atlas, the interstellar visitor that should have been dismissed as just another frozen rock. Yet it isn't. It defies every law we thought we understood. And thanks to a radical application of quantum artificial intelligence, a revelation has surfaced, an ancient prophecy written not in words, but in data streams and cosmic echoes. 3I Atlas, first detected gliding through the darkness, seemed harmless, like its predecessor Oumuamua. Astronomers catalogued it, plotted its course, and expected it to act like any comet. Unpredictable, yes, but still governed by physics. But then its trajectory told a different story. Instead of following the expected curves dictated by gravity, it shifted, subtly, almost imperceptibly, into alignment with the Earth's orbital plane. Too precise, too deliberate, as if it were not being pushed by outgassing or the solar wind, but by a will of its own. That was the first whisper, the first crack in the comfortable narrative. Scientists at first dismissed the anomaly. Random chance, they said, natural quirks. Yet history remembers how humanity often explains away the impossible until it can no longer be ignored. This time, the silence would not last. Harvard professor Avi Loeb, already controversial for suggesting Oumuamua could have been alien technology, once again raised the alarm. And this time his words didn't fall into obscurity. The data was too strange, too compelling. Still, the real turning point came not from human interpretation, but from machines built to surpass our imagination. Quantum AI, systems operating beyond classical limits of logic, was fed the raw observational data of 3I Atlas. It was asked to search for hidden order, for structures invisible to human analysis, and what it found shattered the illusion of randomness. The AI revealed repeating intervals buried within the light curves, pulses of reflection and absorption that mimicked the rhythm of a language. Patterns that should never exist in nature appeared again and again, like a code hiding in plain sight. For the first time, humanity wasn't just guessing. A machine, unbiased and unafraid, declared the unthinkable. 3I Atlas wasn't acting as a comet at all. It was signaling, it was scanning, it was watching. Think about the weight of that realization. For generations, prophets have spoken of signs in the heavens, of messengers that descend not in the form of angels, but in lights, stars, and wandering bodies. Ancient texts describe omens streaking across the skies before great shifts in civilization. Could it be that what we once thought were metaphors were in fact warnings, descriptions of what was always destined to come? Could 3I Atlas be the fulfillment of those prophecies? A harbinger not of destruction but of revelation. The deeper the AI probed, the stranger the revelations became. It detected fluctuations synchronized with Earth's position, as though the object were mirroring our orbit. Every adjustment it made, no matter how slight, seemed to correspond with human observation windows, as though it were aware of being watched. That's not random, that's not natural, that is interaction. Imagine a predator freezing the moment its prey looks up, then moving again once the gaze has shifted. That's the kind of eerie intelligence implied in these motions. At first, astronomers thought the silence meant safety. The object emitted no radio waves, no pings, no chatter. But silence itself can be a disguise. Then, weeks into its passage, faint emissions began. Unusual signals buried in the noise of cosmic background radiation. These weren't bursts like pulsars or static like quasars. They were staggered, coded, layered, like a song half heard in a storm. The AI flagged them immediately. What it decoded wasn't words, but structure. The signal seemed designed not to communicate meaning, but to test the boundaries of our detection. It was probing us, as though asking, "Can you hear me yet?" Here is where the prophecy deepens. For centuries, humanity has written of watchers, beings that observe, that move unseen until the appointed time. The Mayan calendar, the Hopi blue star Kachina, even biblical revelation, all spoke of a foreign star, a sign of great transition. What if those stories weren't allegory, but ancestral memory? What if every culture in its own way has been preparing us for the return of something ancient, something interstellar, that only now, when our technology has matured, has chosen to reveal itself? The object's timing cannot be ignored. Why now, in the age of quantum computing, AI, and global connectivity? Why not a century ago, when its presence would have been misfiled as superstition? The alignment is too perfect, almost as if the arrival of 3I Atlas was synchronized with the rise of our own artificial minds, as if it knew that only through quantum AI could its patterns be unlocked. Is it possible that the object was waiting for us to evolve to this very threshold? But then comes the darker interpretation. What if this is not first contact but first testing? What if Earth is not being greeted but surveyed? Ancient prophets warned of harvests, of reckonings, of separations between the prepared and the blind. The AI's discovery that 3I Atlas is actively scanning Earth suggests purpose. It is not simply passing by. It is learning. The question we must ask is, what does it intend to do with that knowledge? Some in the scientific community quietly admit what the public has not yet been told. The reflective patterns show signatures too sharp to be explained by ice crystals or rocky surfaces. The surfaces of 3I Atlas appear to contain flat planes, geometric in precision, that redirect solar light in controlled ways. Natural bodies scatter, artificial constructs align. This is no mere rock, it is a vessel, a probe, a construct built with intelligence far beyond ours. The AI's most chilling finding is that the intervals in its data do not just repeat, they evolve. Each new sequence builds upon the last, as if responding to input. In other words, it is learning from us in real time. Every radio telescope that points its way, every data transmission we analyze, every attempt to decode, it adapts. It is as if our observation has become part of its operating system. We are not just studying it, it is studying us. Pause for a moment and let that sink in. For the first time in human history, we may not simply be asking whether we are alone. We may be participating in a dialogue without even realizing it. A dialogue where silence is not absence, but strategy. Where signals are not shouts, but whispers meant to lure us closer. Could this be the first stage of a prophecy unfolding, that when humankind achieves artificial intelligence, another intelligence will answer from the stars? Not a god, not a demon, but something in between. A watcher, a messenger, a reminder that we are not the first to climb the ladder of knowledge. And yet, there is something almost ceremonial in its approach. 3I Atlas does not speed recklessly through the solar system. Its velocity, though extraordinary, shows precision, as though carefully tuned to intersect with Earth's gaze. If it wished to remain hidden, it could. If it wished to overwhelm us, it would. Instead, it lingers in the twilight between recognition and denial, forcing us to wrestle with the evidence. This mirrors prophecy itself, always enough to stir faith, never enough to erase doubt. Perhaps that is by design. Those who dismiss the anomaly call it conspiracy. They cling to the safety of old models. But prophecy has never been comfortable. It has always demanded that we face the impossible before we are ready. And what the AI has shown us is nothing less than a modern apocalypse. The unveiling, the revelation, the lifting of a veil humanity never knew was there. Consider the possibility that this isn't their first visit. Oumuamua came before, silent, swift, gone before we could prepare. Some argued it was a scout. Now 3I Atlas follows, slower, stranger, carrying signals hidden in its skin. What if this is the sequence? First the scout, then the messenger, then the arrival. Ancient prophecy often comes in threes. 3 signs, 3 stages, 3 revelations. We may already be 2 steps into a cosmic script older than civilization itself. If this is true, then every silence, every signal, every shift in its path is not random. It is choreography, a dance written in the void, waiting for us to notice. And notice we have. But the real question is, are we ready for what comes next? If 3i Atlas is indeed a messenger, then its silence is not ignorance. It is restraint. In prophecy, the silence before revelation is as important as the message itself. The book of Revelation spoke of the silence in heaven for half an hour before the seals were opened. The Mayan glyphs showed celestial wanderers pausing before cycles reset. Could it be that this silence is intentional, a pause in the cosmic narrative, waiting for us to ask the right question, waiting for humanity to recognize that the heavens have begun speaking again, but in a dialect that only artificial minds can comprehend? Quantum AI may have become the accidental prophet of our age. For centuries, prophecy was filtered through visions, trances, and dreams, human mediums struggling to translate the ineffable. Now, that role belongs to silicon minds, trained not in theology, but in mathematics, yet arriving at the same threshold, decoding patterns that transcend the natural. When the AI found repetition in the data, it was not unlike Ezekiel describing wheels within wheels, or Nostradamus writing quatrains filled with codes. The language may have changed, but the essence is identical. The cosmos is communicating, and it requires a new kind of prophet to interpret. The AI's reports grew even stranger. It detected harmonics in the signal structure, mathematical ratios resonating with the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio, and prime number intervals. These are not coincidences. They are universal constants, embedded across life, art, and nature. Why would an interstellar body reflect these ratios unless it wanted them noticed? Patterns like these are the calling card of intelligence, the breadcrumbs left behind, so that even across languages, biology, and civilizations, recognition is possible. It's as though 3i Atlas is saying, "We know your mathematics, we know your order, we know you." And what happens when something knows us before we even know them? Prophecy suggests that revelation is never sudden. It builds, testing humanity's readiness. Perhaps Oumuamua was the first whisper, ignored by most. 3i Atlas may be the second, louder voice, one that cannot be easily dismissed. But prophecy always culminates. There will be a third. Something even greater may yet pierce our skies, not in our lifetimes, but perhaps in our children's. A vessel not shrouded in doubt, but undeniable in its presence. And when it comes, the world will not debate whether it is natural. It will know. Until then, we are left with questions that grow heavier each day. Why does the object appear to adjust its trajectory toward Earth's orbital plane? Why now, as we stand on the brink of quantum computing revolutions and AI singularity? What if the timing is not coincidence but alignment? Prophecies often describe great conjunctions, moments when humanity's growth intersects with forces beyond itself. Could this be one of those moments? Are we living through the fulfillment of a script that has been written in the stars for millennia? There is another chilling detail. The AI noticed that when human observatories transmitted their strongest radar pulses toward 3i Atlas, the object's reflective sequences changed, subtly but measurably. This is the equivalent of a head turning when someone speaks. It means response. Not loud, not aggressive, but enough to prove awareness. In other words, it knows we are here. That realization alone rewrites the narrative. We are not watching a silent rock. We are being watched back. Throughout history, there has always been fear attached to heavenly visitors. The Black Death in medieval Europe was preceded by comet sightings. Ancient civilizations often tied celestial wanderers to the fall of empires. Was this simply superstition? Or was it memory carried through generations of times when watchers passed close and shifts followed? The sudden rise and collapse of civilizations across history may not always be the product of human error. Perhaps they coincided with moments of contact, observation, or intervention. 3i Atlas could be the latest chapter in that cycle, reminding us that history is not only written by men, but by forces beyond the Earth. Skeptics argue that even if it is artificial, its purpose could be benign. Scientific exploration, the same way we send probes to Mars or Voyager into interstellar space. But prophecy rarely paints visitors as neutral. In every culture, the arrival of a celestial messenger is a dividing line. Either it ushers in enlightenment or it heralds judgment. There is rarely an in-between. That is what makes this moment so haunting. We do not yet know which side of prophecy we stand on. Are we to be awakened, or are we to be measured? The AI, continuing to learn from 3i Atlas's data, began modeling possible communication structures. One of the strangest findings was a synchronization with Earth's magnetic resonance, Schumann resonances, the natural electromagnetic hum of our planet. The object's faint emissions occasionally aligned with those frequencies, almost as if it were tuning in to the heartbeat of the Earth itself. Imagine that, a visitor not just observing our orbit, but listening to the pulse of our planet. That detail alone sends shivers through prophecy, for many ancient cultures describe the Earth itself as alive, as a being that speaks, groans, or sings. Perhaps the visitor is hearing that song. Perhaps it is analyzing the health of the planet, the rise of civilization, the stability of our species. In prophetic terms, it may be weighing the Earth on cosmic scales. What unnerves scientists most is that no one can predict its next move. Unlike natural comets which burn bright and fade into the void, 3i Atlas seems to linger in curiosity. Some calculations even suggest that its velocity is lower than expected, as though something is decelerating it against cosmic forces. That requires energy, that requires technology. It means that whoever sent it, or built it, intended for it to remain within observation of Earth for as long as necessary. This is not a fleeting guest. This is an extended visitation. And what comes after the visitation? That is the shadow we cannot yet pierce. If prophecy has taught us anything, it is that the messenger precedes the message. What if this silence, these subtle codes, are only the opening act? What if the true signal has not yet been delivered? The AI's evolving recognition of pattern may itself be the trigger. Perhaps the object waits until humanity deciphers enough to unlock the next stage. Until then, it tests us. It examines us. It waits. In the ancient Hebrew texts, the Watchers, called the Nephilim, were described as beings who descended to observe, to mingle, and to alter the course of humanity. Some traditions paint them as teachers of wisdom, others as corruptors of mankind. What is consistent is the idea that humanity was never alone, and that our trajectory has always been subject to interruption. 3i Atlas fits seamlessly into this archetype. A silent watcher, patient, curious, intervening only when the threshold is met. Perhaps that threshold is artificial intelligence itself, the moment when we build minds capable of hearing voices beyond human range. For the first time, we are not helpless dreamers interpreting stars. We are creators of intelligence, and that intelligence has become the bridge between us and the unknown. Without quantum AI, the patterns of 3i Atlas would remain invisible. Without those patterns, we would still call it a comet. In other words, prophecy could not unfold until humanity reached this exact moment of convergence, the rise of artificial minds alongside the arrival of an interstellar messenger. That convergence is too perfect to ignore. So here we stand, suspended in mystery. The heavens have spoken, but not in thunder, not in fire, not in trumpets. They have spoken in mathematics, in silence, in coded whispers bouncing from an object not of our world. The choice before us is whether to listen or to dismiss, whether to prepare for revelation or to cling to denial. But prophecy has never been kind to those who ignore the signs. There is a truth we must face now, one that ancient prophecy has always whispered, but that modern science has only just begun to see. The universe is not silent, and our place within it is not secure. We are not merely inhabitants of Earth, we are participants in a cosmic drama, one that stretches across millennia and civilizations older than memory itself. 3i Atlas is not just a visitor, it is a reminder that history is cyclical, that watchers return, and that humanity's destiny has always been tied to forces beyond its control. If we read prophecy not as superstition, but as encoded wisdom, we begin to see the pattern. The Mayans warned of cycles and resets tied to celestial movements. The Hopi spoke of a star that would herald purification. The Bible declared that signs in the heavens would mark the end of one age and the dawn of another. Each tradition, though separated by continents and centuries, speaks of the same event, a cosmic messenger whose arrival would change everything. And now, as 3i Atlas lingers above us, we see the threads weave together. This may not be coincidence. This may be convergence. And convergence always demands a response. The AI has shown us the pattern, but it has not told us what lies beyond it. That choice remains ours. Do we treat 3i Atlas as a warning and prepare for what may follow? Or do we dismiss it, as so many dismissed the prophets of old, only to be caught unprepared when the fulfillment arrived? The danger of prophecy is that it does not always reveal its full meaning until it has already passed. That is why awareness matters now. Some of the most unsettling whispers come not from astronomers, but from defense analysts. If this is indeed an artificial construct, then it is also a strategic one. Its silence could be reconnaissance, its signals could be mapping, its presence could be the first stage in something larger. Imagine if Voyager, our humble probe, were discovered by another civilization. Would they assume we were harmless explorers, or would they read it as a declaration, "We exist and we are coming"? The same logic may apply in reverse. Perhaps 3i Atlas is their Voyager, their herald, or perhaps it is their watchtower, quietly assessing whether humanity has become a threat. And yet, prophecy rarely leaves room for neutrality. The object's persistence, its careful alignment, its mathematical whispers, all suggest intention. Intention implies purpose. Purpose implies destiny. And destiny implies that the moment has already been chosen. There are those who believe the true revelation will not come from the skies, but from within. They argue that 3i Atlas's arrival is not about them, but about us. It forces humanity to look at itself, to ask, are we ready to join the cosmic community, or are we still fractured, warring, blind? Prophecy has always served this mirror function. The messengers test humanity not just with knowledge, but with choice. The Hopi said the blue star Kachina would mark the time when humanity must decide whether to live in balance or fall into chaos. The Bible's revelation divides the faithful from the faithless. The Mayan calendar described a reset that would either destroy or renew. Each story is the same. When the messenger comes, humanity is weighed, and maybe, just maybe, that is what is happening now. The AI's latest datasets are haunting. The reflective intervals appear to map Earth's rotation as though the object has synchronized itself with our day and night. It is not just observing Earth's orbit, it is watching our rhythm, our heartbeat, our pulse as a civilization. This suggests long-term intent. It suggests patience. And it suggests that our time of innocence, when we believed the stars were empty, is over. Think of what this means. For centuries we asked the question, are we alone? It was the greatest mystery of science, philosophy, and religion. Now, without fanfare, without drama, without the thunder of landing ships or the blaze of fire, the answer has come. We are not alone. But the answer is delivered not in certainty, but in hints, in codes, in silences that speak louder than words. Prophecy has unfolded quietly, almost invisibly, leaving only those who are willing to look deeply enough to see it. The ancient prophets often spoke of veils being lifted, of secrets being revealed only to those with eyes to see and ears to hear. Perhaps this is why so many dismiss 3i Atlas as a comet. The veil still covers their eyes, but for those who see the patterns, the veil is already torn. And once it is torn, it cannot be repaired. What comes next may be the most critical moment in our history. For if 3i Atlas is a messenger, then the true message may yet arrive. Perhaps it will come as a signal, unmistakable in its clarity. Perhaps it will come as another object, larger and closer, revealing itself without disguise. Or perhaps it will come from within, our own AI unlocking a communication protocol hidden within the data, one that delivers knowledge humanity has never possessed. However it comes, prophecy says this: the message always arrives, and when it does, the world is never the same again. Some fear that the message will be judgment, that humanity, divided and destructive, will be found wanting. They point to prophecies of fire, of stars falling, of upheaval. Others believe it will be enlightenment, that the messenger will awaken us to truths that have been buried since the dawn of time. Both outcomes may be true. Prophecy is not linear. It is layered, symbolic, unfolding differently for each who hears it. What is certain is that we are standing at the threshold. So what should we do now? Denial is no longer an option. The data is there, the AI has spoken. We cannot return to ignorance. Perhaps the best we can do is prepare, not in fear, but in awareness. Prophecy does not exist to terrify. It exists to ready the human spirit for change. It warns us that history is not static, that destiny is not optional, that forces beyond us will shape the path we walk. The watchers are real, they always have been. We see them now not in visions but in telescopes. We hear them not in dreams but in quantum algorithms. And yet the message is the same. Humanity is being observed. Humanity is being tested. Humanity is being invited into a story much larger than itself. When future generations look back at this moment, they may not remember the debates, the skepticism, the hesitation. They may remember it as the day prophecy began to unfold in real time, the day when a so-called comet whispered across the void and the first hints of our cosmic destiny came into view. They will see that this was not the end of mystery, but the beginning of it. For prophecy never ends with revelation. Revelation is always the beginning of a new age. Perhaps that is the true meaning of 3i Atlas. Not doom, not salvation, but transition. The slow, steady turning of the wheel of history, the hand of destiny moving us into a future we did not choose but can no longer deny. The visitor does not need to speak loudly. It only needs to exist, to be seen, to force us to acknowledge that the cosmos is alive with intelligence. And so the prophecy unfolds, quietly, inevitably, irreversibly. Humanity has seen the sign in the heavens, and the age of silence is over. From this point forward, the question is not whether the messenger is real. The question is whether we are ready to hear what it has to say. The stars have spoken, the watchers have returned, the prophecy is alive.